Oh, hello, 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 and welcome to the PvA Nightly Rundown. I am your host, Luke Croft, and I've got the wrong background up. Scuff streamer, guys. Here we go. Pro streamer now, baby. Coming in here. Got the city sky. This is my actual view. I like to turn around and say, oh, look at all these cars going by and all these tall buildings behind me. The indiscriminate sandwich shop, totally fake. But I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Has had a fantastic Friday. My Friday has been pretty solid. We got some cleaning done. Played some League of Legends with my brother-in-law. We went 3-0 in our quick play matches. There were quite a number of levers though, but a win's a win's a win, man. I can't control if people are leaving or not, but we're sipping on some creamy shock top, and we're gonna have a good night. We're gonna talk about some gaming news that we didn't get to yesterday because we did our very special episode of PvA Radio with the gang over from Project Esports, where we gave our official E3 predictions. That is live over on youtube.com/PVA radio on podcast services everywhere. You can go check those out. Give them a listen. Let us know if you agree with the predictions that we made. We definitely want to hear from you guys. And then we're going to be doing some coverage of E3 with Project Esports over on twitch.tv/popped off. I'll be live reacting with them for the Microsoft conference and possibly the Bethesda conference. I think I'm going to go on for as well. So yeah, a lot of really cool content for E3 coming up here in the next few days. So tonight we're going to be covering some news that broke yesterday, as well as some stuff that came out today. Because this is the PvA Nightly Rundown, where we get together and I run you through all the video game news that you may have missed throughout the last 24 hours, so that you don't look like a freaking idiot at the water cooler or tomorrow when you're standing on the fifth green putting away, which is what I would like to be doing at some point this weekend. And somebody's like, man, I cannot wait for this Splinter Cell game to be launching. And you can say, you idiot, Jason Schreier said, no Splinter Cell game even being worked on right now. You know, you got to avoid that kind of embarrassment when you're hanging out with your friends. And I'm here to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. So we got a pretty long list of news to get to, but a little bit more housekeeping to get out of the way. New episode of Presco Live is up. That is my podcast where I speak with where I interview Twitch streamers who are doing really cool things on Twitch, who have smaller communities. And today's episode is with Etc. Kid, who is a music streamer who has written software that does all kinds of really cool stuff. It can take your username and turn it into a drum beat, takes your username, turns it into a melody. You can request the key of the song, the beats per minute for a song, all kinds of different requests that you can make. And he takes all of these musical ingredients, puts them together, and improvises a song live for his audience based on their input. And then the audience can name the song and vote on the name of the song, vote on instruments that he plays in the middle of it. But just a really cool, unique show. You can find him on twitch.tv/etc.kid every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But go check that episode out. We talked with him. He's written over 3,000 songs on Twitch, which blows my mind. He's been doing it for two and a half years, written over 3,000 songs live on Twitch with his audience. So we had a great conversation about creativity, about copyright, about how Twitch needs to focus on expanding beyond gaming as a platform. So definitely go check that out. That's live on podcast services everywhere, or you can just type !PGL in the chat, or go to playerversusall.com/press-go-live. All right, enough of the housekeeping, boys and girls. It's Friday. We were going to play some Apex Legends at the end of this show with some friends, so we got some news that we need to get through, and we will do that now, starting with your releases of the week of the day. I gotta get beyond that, man. For years, it was the releases of the week over on the Player 3 podcast. Now it is the releases of the day. Covering everything that came out today over here on my show notes, which you can get to by typing !show notes in the chat. We've got Omen Sight, which released on Xbox One, Warlocks 2, Godslayers on PS4, Switch, Xbox One, Refunked on Switch, Party Golf on Xbox One, Octopath Traveler got its PC release today, Journey of Haha coming out on PC and Mac, Gregor Hill's Haunted Hospital on PC and Mac. We're going to watch the trailer for that because that sounds cool. Idle Dungeons on PC, Nightlights on PC, Aquaculture Land on PC, and The Adventures of Golly on PC. So those are all the games that came out today. Let's go find some. Let's go find a trailer. We do that by going to youtube.com. And we want to look up Gregor Hill's Haunted Hospital. Gregor Hill's Haunted Hospital. All right. All right, this game looks real weird. Hold on. The official trailer. Click on it here. Over here. All right, this art looks not good. A paranormal investigator investigating the haunted hospital of Gregor Hills. This art looks really bad, guys. The hotspot of the paranormal activities. All right, spoopy. Come face to face with the evil. What is this? What is this looking like? They sewed a bunch of pillows onto a body to create a humanoid figure. This looks like what your bed looks like when you try to sneak out of the house and you threw a bunch of stuff on your covers, and that shape. This is the embodiment of that shape underneath those covers. This game does not look good. We swung and missed tonight, so we always like to try to highlight a game that is in the list and see if it would be worth picking up. I would say that is a big old negatory. Not going to be picking that game up. So those are all the games that released today. All right, let's move on to the news. We got quite a bit of it to go here. Let's talk Google Stadia. We talked about this quite a bit in the post show last night. If you were hanging out with us after our E3 predictions. So there was an event yesterday. It was about 25 minutes long, where Google Stadia revealed some new details about their service. And so essentially what we saw is it's coming out later this year in November of 2019. It's going to be available on TVs via the Chromecast Ultra. You're going to be able to play it on desktop, laptops, and tablets. And it's also going to be supported on the Pixel 3 and Pixel 3a phones, with more phone support coming in the future. Also, just so we know, I'm getting these details in a good roundup over here from John Martindale at Digital Trends, just outlining everything that we know about Google Stadia. So, launching it near the end of this year, it's going to be free to access the service in order to play at 1080p or lower resolutions. But if you want to play at with 4K, 60 frames per second, HDR, 5.1 surround sound, it's going to be $10 a month for something called the Stadia Pro. So what? Roy Speedrun coming in hot with the biddies? How are you doing, my friend? How's your stream? I saw you were playing Journey earlier. Did you get a chance to finish it? Because that's a beautiful, beautiful game. We're just talking some Stadia over here. Also, I'd like to hear the chat's thoughts on Stadia, as I'm talking about it as well. Journey was incredible. You did finish it. Awesome. That's the way to do it. Sit down, do it all in one sitting. That game is incredible. So I'm glad you got to experience it. So yeah, coming out late this year. There's going to be, the free version. There's going to be a $10 a month version that gives you all this stuff. You're also within that going to get some sort of like library of free games. And they didn't go into like a lot of detail about what that entails. If it's going to be a rotation of games, if it's going to be like a vault of games that isn't going to change, but it's going to be added to. But you're also going to get discounts on game purchases, and you'll get the entirety of Destiny 2 if you are a member of Stadia Pro. And so So yeah, the pricing model is it's a subscription to access the high end of the service with the 4K gaming, and then you have to buy the game separately from that if they aren't included in whatever this library of free games is going to look like. So, uh, and a lot of people are like a little bit befuddled by this decision, and I am more befuddled by their befuddlement, right? Because there was I'm actually more surprised that they are offering access to the 1080p resolution, the Stadia base, which is launching in 2020, uh, for free. Because to me, it's like in today's gaming world, right? We buy our PCs, we buy our Xboxes, our PlayStations, our Nintendo Switches, and then we have to buy the games for them, right? And we have to buy the services for them. And so to me, it only made sense that like, yeah, you're going to pay for access to this service because that's essentially effectively your console, and they were figuring out a way to like turn that into a subscription based thing. And then you would have to buy games to play on your like virtual console, your quasi console, right? And so, I've been saying this ever since the Google Stadia stuff came out a couple months ago. You can go back and listen to that episode of PvA Radio where I was saying everybody is thinking that this is going to be free to access is just kind of lost their minds, or that they were going to be able to pay for access to it and then just get any game that ever wanted to come out on it without having to pay anything extra. Now, I'm the one eating crow on that prediction because it turns out in 2020, in order to access the 1080p resolution, you're going to be able to access that for free. So, um, yeah, we've kind of landed where I've expected in terms of somewhat around where I've expected in terms of how we're going to be able to access that. They also announced the Stadia Founders Edition, which is going to be $129, and it includes a Chromecast Ultra, which is able to play games in 4K. Well, you'll be able to stream the games in 4K. A limited edition Stadia controller that's in night blue. You'll get 3 months of Stadia Pro, and then first dibs on your name. So you'll get an email that says like, "All right, it's open for you to select your gamer tag," and then a 3 month buddy pass for you to give to a friend. Um, and to me, that sounds like a deal. But it also is, and I mentioned this in the after party lounge last night. I think it's a brilliant move to say like, okay, here's this thing that just kind of like it's abstract. It exists in the ether. There's nothing physical, tangible to it. But we know that like people get excited about buying tactile things, right? Like we all love ordering from Amazon. I love ordering from Amazon, and especially now that they've got like overnight shipping, it's freaking awesome because like that anticipation of something getting delivered and being able to open the box. I'm terrible about throwing boxes that I had technology shipped in away. Hold on, I'll show you an example. I've got my Stream Deck box right here that for some reason, like I just can't bring myself to throw it away. I have every box for every iPhone I've ever owned. I have all the boxes for all the consoles that I've purchased down in my basement. They used to be the background for the Player 3 podcast. I am a box hoarder, no doubt. Also, Beal for real, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? Um, I am a box hoarder, and it's funny. Like I am not a keepsake guy. You can ask my wife this. I joke my wife because like we'll be packing or we'll be like organizing stuff and throwing stuff out, and like for her everything has a story, everything has a background, like in there's always some reason that she doesn't want to get rid of something, and she's just really sentimental and like attaches memories to specific items. For me, it's like I don't give a shit. Let's throw away everything. I tell this story all the time. My parents bought me a ton of stuff when I went to college. I moved to college in a U-Haul. Like we rented a U-Haul for me to take all of my shit to college. And when I left after my freshman year, I had to fit it all inside of my Grand Prix. Like I'm just not a stuff guy. Like I like my technology and all that sort of stuff, but like when it comes to sentimentality and things like that, there are very few items that I am not just like totally willing to part ways with. And so but for some reason, like boxes that I buy that like my technology comes in, I don't want to get rid of them for some reason. When they're done well, like the Streamlabs stuff, like the iPhone stuff, like uh, PSVR had that. All right, Roy. I don't know if I said something and that's a joke or if you're actually running to the store. So picking up them four locos and joining me in the Friday night drinking, my friend. Um. Anyway, so I think it's a really smart idea for Google Stadia. Oh, I was going to talk about the PSVR box. The PSVR came in this awesome box that was like hinged and angled, and I've still got that box. It's downstairs right now. Like I can go get it right now. Know exactly where it is. Um, so for Google Stadia to take this thing that was just like it's like abstract, right, and say, we know you guys like to buy shit. So we're gonna do it. We have a controller that it's got a couple different features, but the likelihood is you own a controller that's gonna work on this thing, and then a Chromecast, and we're gonna package it all for a price that for me. So if it's $10 a month for Stadia Pro, you've got $60 already for in Stadia Pro for the 3 months for you, 3 months for a friend. The Stadia controller, those are $69 a piece. So right there is your $129. So you're basically getting like the Chromecast Ultra for free. And I just think it's brilliant to say, we know you guys like to pre-order shit. We know you like to get excited about stuff months before it comes out. So we're going to put a bundle together, get you excited about it, let you start spending money on it now. And I am going to be spending money on it as soon as I talk my wife into letting me, there's no real talking my wife into it. I just haven't said like, hey, I'm going to spend $130 to get this stuff. So, um, there were some games that were revealed for it. And here's the list of confirmed games, right? I'm not going to go through all these. I'm just going to note some. Doom Eternal, Rage 2, a big Bethesda presence here, right? So Elder Scrolls Online, Wolfenstein, Youngblood, Destiny 2 is going to come. They showed a game called Get Packed yesterday, which looked hilarious to me. It's like all about trying to pack up a home or a store and get it all out to the moving truck. But there's all these wacky physics and stuff. Farming Simulator 19, the world's hottest esport. Beal for Real probably knows a lot about the Farming Simulator 19 esports scene. Um, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, NBA 2K, Borderlands 3, Baldurs Gate 3, which was a game that they revealed yesterday, and we talked about that earlier in the week. It's being made by the same people who made Divinity Original Sin 2. And that trailer looked dope as hell. I had no idea what it was. I was like, is this Game of Thrones? And then all of a sudden the dude turns into an alien, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm in for this. I don't know anything about Baldur's Gate, but I am in for this. It looks awesome. Um, and then also like Mortal Kombat 11, which I think is an interesting choice to me, right? Because the fighting game community is uh, really particular in regards to latency and the fact that this is a streaming service. I doubt they're going to be able to get too many hardcore fighting game players to come over to the Google Stadia scene in order to play Mortal Kombat 11, but the fact that they have enough confidence in their own infrastructure and latency to put games like Mortal Kombat 11, like multiplayer shooters like, Destiny 2, I think speaks a lot to their confidence. And the Division 2 is also a game. There's a big Ubisoft presence here too. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Just Dance, The Crew 2, those games. So a lot of games, and you can see the partnerships they're already starting to carve out, and those are going to be super important for this for this service to be legitimate, or seen as legitimate. If they're just kind of picking up the scraps, people aren't going to be interested in jumping over to the service. But the fact that 2K, Ubisoft, Bethesda already are in on this, I think, and then Square Enix as well, I think speaks volumes to the confidence that not only Google has in it, but the industry as a whole. So, some other like little tidbits that came out about this. There was some stuff that came out afterwards that like, if you stream for 65 hours, you're going to you're going to reach a terabyte of data. And, that conversation continues to go on about, with ISPs and internet speeds the way that they are, and the data caps that ISPs are putting on people, is this really the climate for a game like this to succeed? I think that we have a data limit. We've never reached our data limit that I know of, and we use the internet a lot. Like we watch Netflix and Hulu all the time. I'm all the time watching Twitch. I leave like lurk accounts up for people on Twitch, play online games all the time. I stream every single night at 9 p.m. Eastern time over here on twitch.tv/PvA radio. You don't want to miss this show because you'll look like a freaking idiot at the water cooler tomorrow. I use a lot of internet. A lot of internet. But a terabyte for like 2 hours of gameplay a day, if you're playing at 4K, that's crazy. I imagine you're going to see a lot of people who are like, I'm just going to play at 1080. So, yeah, Google Stadia. What's up, Harry Dongstorm? Just use less internet. What are we talking about? What's up, my dude? Hey, how's it going, man? Welcome to the stream. We're talking about Google Stadia and how it's going to be pretty internet intensive for people who are hoping to play at 4K. But again, it's like, who's playing Google Stadia that really cares about playing at the highest specs? Right? They also promised that they're going to move up to 8K, 120 frames per second. And then at that point, you're looking at what, like 30 hours of gameplay before you reach a terabyte? Is that like GeForce Now, cloud GPU? Yeah, Google Stadia, it's like a game streaming platform. So all of the computing is over on Google servers, and you're just streaming it to your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your television via Chromecast. So pretty internet intense. And I think that may be the one thing that's going to hold people back. And I don't think it's necessarily the speeds. I meant to find the chart. Tried playing with the NVIDIA version of that for my Mac. Can your eyes register 8K? Hey, your eyes can't see more than 30 frames per second. It was okay, but basically just for casual gaming. And I think that, to me, I don't think Google Stadia is going to be replacing anybody's mainstay gaming. Like, people who have PCs and Xbox Ones and PS4s are not going to say, I've got Google Stadia now, I'm good. But to be able to say, like, okay, we've got Destiny 2 on here with cross saves. We'll get to that here in a bit. But for me to say, like, okay, I'm going to play Destiny 2 on my PC, and then when I'm traveling, I can just take my laptop with me, connect online, load my character, play Destiny 2 there. I would not try to do anything competitive with that. Anything under 30 milliseconds of lag is terrible. Yeah, and we were talking about that with Mortal Kombat 11 coming to this platform, and how fighting game players are really particular about latency. I'm really curious to see what the latency is going to be like on this, because Google has said that, like, they're training their algorithm to be able to hotel Wi-Fi. When I say traveling, I'm normally like going to visit my in-laws, or I don't stay in a ton of hotels. I'm normally going somewhere with decent internet. So yeah, but they've promised that, like, or they've said as much, that, like, they're training their AI, and they've somehow, and I don't understand the nuts and bolts of it, but basically, the longer this system exists, the more optimized it's going to become. The machine learning is going to help it to understand what to prioritize and what to drop if things are are falling behind, in order to maintain a good level of latency, and probably like steady frame rate, stuff like that as well. Because while it may be able to handle 60 frames per second, you definitely don't want it jumping between like 25, 60, 12, 58. Like, you can notice just a slight adjustment in frame rate. And so I imagine that the machine learning is going to help it all to just figure out what's most stable. So I'm going to try it out. I'm going to get in on it. I think $129 just to start with the controller, the Chromecast, and 3 free months of, or in 3 months of Stadia Pro, I don't think is a huge, I don't think is a big price to pay to get on the ground floor of a technology that I really do think is going to revolutionize gaming as we go on. It just kills the quality, or at least that's what GeForce did. But that was also free. Yeah, and I struggle to compare it to something like GeForce when you think about the infrastructure that Google has. Um, it it blows whatever infrastructure GeForce has out of the water. Kills the quality to keep the frames. I'd rather it do that though than kill the frames to keep the quality, right? All right. Speaking of Destiny, some big news came out of Destiny yesterday. And I don't know if it was infrastructure or just local Wi-Fi, but I have no idea. And how long ago was that, Harry Dongstorm? I'm really interested. I really don't know a ton about this GeForce Now service. I need to get sponsored by Shock Top also. Like 4 months ago. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Next item on the list. This is from Tom Senior over at PC Gamer. Wrote this up before having to take care of Tom Jr. Am I right? All right. Destiny 2 is going free to play. He has a good bulleted list of stuff that was announced during this live stream event. The first is that the base game is going to be rebranded as Destiny 2 New Light. The free version of this game is going to include all of the Year 1 missions, activities, and rewards, and that will include strikes, player versus player crucible modes, and even the original Leviathan raids. So, and this is all happening in September when Shadowkeep comes out. Shadowkeep is going to be their new expansion. Is going to take place on the moon. It's going to be standalone. You're not going to need any of the previous expansions to access Shadowkeep. And he writes, which reinforces Bungie's plan to sell future updates as standalone releases that players can pick and choose from. The expansion will reconnect with Eris Morn, which suggests the Hive will be heavily involved. They love the moon. So, I think that this is really interesting because we're starting to see Bungie's first set of moves with Destiny after getting out from under the thumb of Activision. And I have to imagine that these are things that they wanted to probably do all along. For the first time ever, they actually referred to their game as an MMO in this live stream, which is language that they had, tried to stray away from with the original Destiny and in the early days of Destiny 2. And that's something that they always shied away from, and they tried to coin the phrase like shared world shooters and stuff like this. But I think that they're really trying to adopt who it is that they are, and really create the game that they wanted to create. I think the relationship with Activision probably soured really early on between Bungie and them, because we all remember the Destiny announcements and the hype. You can go, you see that mountain over there, you can go to this mountain. I like to call it the Uncle Rico announcement, right? Um, and then how as time went on and we got closer and closer to release, there were delays, there was stuff getting stripped out, there was all these different changes and downgrades to the gameplay, and to the map size and the way that the world worked. And I have to imagine that when Bungie originally set out to create Destiny, they saw it exclusively as a next gen experience, right? PS4, Xbox One, we're bringing it to these consoles. We're going to try our best to take as much advantage of it as we can in those early days as humanly possible. And Activision came in and said, "Look, we're just a year and a half out from the release of these consoles. The install bases are relatively low. We have to consider the fact that there are hundreds of millions of Xbox 360s and PS3s out there. We have to get this game going here." And that like created some tension between the two companies, and it also created the need to start cutting stuff away from the game. And I think it really hamstrung 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 Destiny to really create the game that they wanted to create. And now that they're out from under that thumb, we're starting to see some course correction, and they're starting to do make some of the decisions that I think they probably wanted to make way sooner. And this idea that like, hey, the base game is free. We're going to give people this entry point, much like, a lot of MMORPGs do. Have them get a taste of the loot grind, a taste of the world, some of the most satisfying gunplay in all of video games. Get them hooked and hopefully expand the player base and get them interested in spending more money on these expansions. They're also bringing cross save, which is going to be really cool. That's going to be available for Google Stadia, Xbox One, PS4, and PC. There's also a rumor that's been swirling around that Destiny 2 is going to be announced for the Switch during E3, which would be pretty wild. That would be enough to get me back into it. To be able to play it on my Xbox or my PC, and then take it on the road with me to play on Switch to do some of the more grindy stuff, and then just be able to upload it back and pick it up where I went on. They're not going to do crossplay, but they noted that cross save was always something that they planned for Destiny 2, but there were reasons that they couldn't. And this article speculates that it's presumably because of Activision's exclusivity with Sony, and I would have to probably agree with that. But this is a big deal, man. I think the more opportunities you give people to say, this isn't necessarily full crossplay. You can't get on your Xbox One and play with your PS4 friends, but you can just save your character, load it up to the PS4, and then play with your friends over there now. Like, I'm very excited to see the future of Destiny now that they don't have Activision breathing down their neck, and that they can take the time to make the decisions that they want to make. They also announced there's going to be a renewed focus on PvP. Crucible players have been complaining about a lack of updates for some time, and though Bungie didn't go to many specifics, it did talk about beloved game types from the past returning. So they're also getting rid of exclusivity. There's not going to be exclusive modes, weapons, armor, maps, anything like that kind of loomed over, especially the original Destiny, with a lot of the timed exclusivity. Some of the weapons and maps not coming to the Xbox One version for a year was just insane. But the renewed focus on PvP is another big thing to me. One of the main reasons that I got out of Destiny 2 is because the loot grind didn't seem to be important outside of just raiding. Your light level really didn't impact your ability to compete in any of the online modes, any of the Crucible modes, like they did in Destiny 1. And so it really dropped a lot of the incentive for me to go and grind for more loot, because I was like, well, we're all going to be made even when we go into the multiplayer anyway, so what's the point in trying to get more loot? But yeah, I think Destiny is in a really good spot right now. I think that a lot of these announcements have gotten people very excited, and we're only a few months out of them parting ways with Activision. Can you imagine what Destiny 3 is going to look like when they have a full-on, when they have full control over their vision and the game that they're going to release? It's going to be awesome. I love Destiny. Destiny 1 got its hooks in me a lot better than Destiny 2 did, but I love the world. Like I said, it's some of the best gunplay that's out there. And so these changes to Destiny 2 get me excited, and these changes to Destiny 2 get me excited about next year when we'll start hearing rumblings about Destiny 3. All right. Speaking of sequel rumors, this is from our boy Jason Schreier over at Kotaku. Blizzard cancels StarCraft first-person shooter to focus on Diablo and Overwatch 2. It says Blizzard has canceled a StarCraft first-person shooter that had been in development for the past 2 years, according to 3 people familiar with goings-on at the studio. The main reason Blizzard told staff was to put more resources into the Diablo and Overwatch franchises. The project, which was codenamed Eris, was described to me as, quote, like Battlefield in the StarCraft universe, end quote, by one of those people, all of whom spoke anonymously because they were not authorized to talk about the project. I'm going to move on from this portion of it because I don't really care about the StarCraft first-person shooter, if I'm being just totally honest. And move on to the part that I really care about. It says nobody was laid off as a result of the cancellation, and according to to staff, Blizzard told the team that Eris was getting axed alongside a second unannounced mobile project so that the company could move many of them to the upcoming Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2, both of which are expected to be Blizzard's marquee announcements at this year's BlizzCon. Of course, as we saw last year, when it comes to BlizzCon announcements, anything can change. So, interesting. Overwatch 2 has always been this, like, will they, won't they kind of thing. And I've always erred on the side of they won't. I think the Overwatch League needs some real consistency. And I think doing a full blown sequel, whatever that may look like, is really disruptive to what they're trying to do with the Overwatch League that they're investing so heavily in. That was the side of the fence I've always stood on, right? And then this announcement comes, this leak comes through yesterday, and I start thinking, like, Overwatch 2. Is Overwatch 2 something that I would get excited about? I've got like 1,600 hours in Overwatch, right? And to me, I think that this makes more sense. Now, before I used to think, like, why would Blizzard do this? They're going to screw over their esports scene. Like, they're hitting the reset button. But man, I'm going to tell you this. I am a huge Overwatch League fan. Huge. I'm wearing my Overwatch League hat right now. Houston Outlaws. Houston Overwatches. Huge Overwatch League fan. I was watching it tonight. Watching a couple matches. And it was just goats v goats. Playoffs last year. Goats v goats. The only variant you get is Sombra sometimes. And I'm like, look, I understand that occasionally there's a meta. And when you're playing these games competitively, you want to play them in such a way that you're giving yourself the best chance possible. If Goats is that chance, by God, play it. There's tons of money on the line. Esports careers are not long. Go out, get your money, teams. Like, I understand it, right? But I feel like Blizzard has been trying now for months with patches and with nerfs to Brigitte, with nerfs to Diva, with new characters being introduced, all kinds of other different like balance changes. They've been trying for a long time now to kill goats, and they cannot figure out how to do it. They can't. And I think that it is going to require a full reset, not so that they can just restart the balancing. You can restart the balancing, however. But I think there are some fundamental things within the matchmaking that are going to have to change on the competitive side. There are some fundamental things that are going to have to change on in the competitive structure side of things that are going to require a full reset. And I can see them bringing over, a lot of the characters that we're seeing in the original, but they definitely want to put a 2-2-2 lock in, I think. Absolutely, they want to put a 2-2-2 lock in, especially for their professional scene. Like, the individual play is the reason that I tune in for Overwatch League, and you don't really get to see the individual play. It's really just big balls of ultimates and nobody dying. The thing is, Blizzard designed Overwatch to be an esport. So will they maintain Overwatch 1, or will they full axe Overwatch 1 and make everyone switch over to Overwatch 2? I think they're going to full axe Overwatch 1. I think they're going to make it similar enough that, like, there's people that the pros now are not really going to drop off, but they're going to completely axe it because there's going to be systems in place. I think on the user side, the non-professional side, right, just the competitive side, they're going to add in role queue. I think they're going to try to launch with an even number of tanks, damage dealers, and healers all at one time, in order to give people more appeal, make it more appealing to play those different roles. Because right now the thing is like, well, there's 3 times as many damage dealers as there are tanks and healers, and the queue time, and a lot of the tanks and healers just aren't really all that fun to play, honestly. And so the queue times for your DPS will be astronomical, healers will be less, and then tanks, I've read, it would be like instantaneous for them to find. So they're going to have to create a game that has these locks, or these role queues, but they're also going to have to make enough compelling characters in each of those categories that people are people are willing to play them. Now I'm an off tank player, and I play some main tank when need be, not very well. Um, and so it doesn't bother me one way or the other. But for a lot of DPS players, where they're like, say what you will about DPS mains, but like one of my best friends is a DPS main. He's like, I just don't have fun playing tanks. Like it's just not fun. I'm like, I play tank. I know it's not fun. You're just getting it like. So I'm a higher rank on console than I am on PC, and so, but like you're playing tank and it's just like you're stunned, you're frozen, you're just CC'd constantly. You're hacked like, um, so it's not fun. They got to make those roles fun to play again, and I think that there is a legit infrastructural reason that they can't just be like, all right, we're gonna push 222 lock into Overwatch 1 now. I think it's going to require a full reset. There's also been a lot of talk about a story mode being added to it, which is something that people have been asking for a long, long time now. So I think apparently a couple people, this is according to Jason Schreier's report, a couple people have compared it to Left 4 Dead, which I think is interesting. I've always wondered what an Overwatch story campaign would look like. Like, would it be like a fighting game? You know, where it's like, hey, you're going to play these two fights as this person, and then we're going to switch the story point of view over to this character, and then you'll fight with them for a couple fights. Like, I'm just really interested to see how they would execute it. PvE events that they have. So wait, is Overwatch 2 confirmed? It's still a rumor. It's still a rumor, but it's a rumor from Jason Schreier, and to me, that is confirmed. But the PvE events have been super successful for Overwatch. You know, the anniversary events, Junkenstein's Revenge, all those different PvE modes have been really, really successful for Overwatch. And so for them to just build out something that exists in perpetuity and they can push updates out for that as well, I think would be a huge deal. So I've talked myself into Overwatch 2 being a good thing. It's going to be very, very sad the last time I log off of Overwatch 1 before logging on to Overwatch 2, considering the amount of my life I've spent playing it. But I think it's going to be a necessary thing to keep Overwatch fresh and keep Overwatch alive. Because I watch like the LCS and LEC, and I see a few things that are different, right? Number one, I think the production value of League esports just blows Overwatch out of the water. The production value for the LEC that I was watching today, insane. It's so good. It's so good. But they're constantly talking about patches. Like there's always changes being made in League, and like they've just gotten used to 9.11. Boom, 9.12 is coming out here soon. Like, and they're gonna have to adjust. And so I think Overwatch needs to take that more nimble approach to their game. It looked like they were starting to do that as they were pushing more and more patches out to the PTR there just a couple months ago. But I feel like even that slowed. I don't get it. They can change the current game in any way they want. What could Overwatch 2 give us that Overwatch 1 can? Roy Speedrun, I touched on this a little bit already. I know that you probably just got back from the store. I don't think they can do anything that they want. I think there is a legit technical reason that role queue cannot be added into Overwatch 1. I think that there is maybe a legit reason that a 222 lock can't be introduced into Overwatch 1. Or it would be quicker for them to just make a new game in order to make it happen. Pull over some characters. And look, there's going to be characters we won't see. I don't think we're going to see Brigitte. Brigitte's the main one. I started that like I was going to say a list, but like I think we're going to see some characters that just disappear from the game. And that's something I don't think you can do with Overwatch 1. You can't take characters out right now, given the competitive scene. You can't be like, all right, guys, everybody hates Brigitte. She's out. I'd argue Brigitte's not the problem. The massive amounts of AoE healing that's available is the problem. And then I think there's just some design stuff they're going to have to go back to the drawing board on to really be able to match the original vision that they had for Overwatch. So the original vision for Overwatch was we want teams to have to switch in order to counter. So You'll see. Let's see. So you'll see. Hold on. All right. This is gonna be scuffed, but we'll we'll make this work. All right. Let's go over here. If you watch any of Jane's streams, right, you'll hear him talk about, and this was really a factor in the World Cup last year, the Overwatch World Cup, where there were three kind of goats that were happening. There was Ana goats, there was Moira goats, and there was Zen goats, right? And so on the current patch, there was this kind of like rock paper scissors aspect to Overwatch. You like how I just loaded a picture of a whiteboard in order to draw on a whiteboard for you guys? So the idea was that um, Ana goats countered Moira goats, right? Because of the anti grenade. Moira goats countered Zen goats because I think of the massive healing output. And then I think Zen goats, and look, I'm probably like massively wrong, but I'm illustrating the point here. And I think Zen goats countered Ana goats due to Zen's damage output and possibly transcendence. I don't know. Point being that at the time in that meta, there were three different, at least one character options that had this like rock, paper, scissors feel to it. This was the original intention of the design of Overwatch, not for each individual character, but for whole entire team comps, right? So, like, I guess a better example of it now would be um, bunker versus like hard dive, where you play or like a Sombra hard dive, where you've got like ball diving in with Sombra to try to counter a bunker comp. Like the original intent was we want teams to be constantly switching, but in the design, with as important as ultimates are, and how ult economy just gets completely screwed if you're trying to counter swap constantly. Like teams have just found the mirror comps that work the best, and they run them into each other, and that's been Zen goods. So I just think there's some design things they really need to go back to the drawing board on, and I don't think that it's possible for them right now with Overwatch One. There's no way to push a patch out that big. They just have to hit the reset button. But I'm sad about it too, Roy Speedrun. I really am. How do I close out of this Epic Pen? Epic Pen is an awesome app, by the way. I emailed, not emailed, I messaged Sideshow Overwatch to ask him what he used for his telestrations, and he was like, it's called Epic Pen. It's like $10. It's like, sweet. All right. Guys, we got like 9 minutes to go, and we haven't even scratched the surface on the news. So we're going to blaze through a lot of this. Next story on the list. Ubisoft is not working on another Splinter Cell game. This is according to Jason Schreier, that he talked about on Split Screen, which is an amazing video game podcast if you're not listening to it. This is from Jasmine Henry at Gamer Rant. It says Ubisoft may not be working on a new Splinter Cell game, says sources on the matter. The news will be incredibly disappointing to fans who had expected the reveal of a new Splinter Cell game to be one of the marquee announcements of the company's E3 2019 press conference. In a new edition of the Split Screen podcast, the famously well-informed journalist Jason Schreier revealed that everyone he has spoken to says that Ubisoft isn't developing a new Splinter Cell. Quote, I've asked a bunch of people about this because everybody wants to know if the Splinter Cell game is coming. Everyone I've talked to has said no. As far as they know, there's no Splinter Cell game in production. Shocked Pikachu face, right? So we had the leak where like some developers went out and were drinking and used the hashtag Splinter Cell. Um, and look, I would love a new Splinter Cell game. But I think it makes sense. When you look at what Ubisoft has been doing with all of their franchises, how do you make Splinter Cell into a game of service? Guys, let's think for a moment about all the big Ubisoft games right now. The Division 2, game of service. We've got Ghost Recon, both Wildlands and now coming up as Breakpoint, game of service. For Honor, Game of service. Skull and Bone, game of service. Assassin's Creed is really the only one that hasn't taken on a game of service. Ghost Recon is basically online Splinter Cell now. I thought the last game was really good though. Um, but Ghost Recon is a little bit more like you can either go in really tactically or you can go in like guns a blazing, right? Splinter Cell's not built like that. Like, how do you build a cooperative world around Splinter Cell? I think that Assassin's Creed just is such a mammoth of an IP that you make it work for like your single player game. But Splinter Cell, man, like Splinter Cell would be a nostalgia pick, and to build out a big expansive world like they do in Assassin's Creed, I think is a big risk. When was the last Splinter Cell game? August 2013. Yeah. I don't know. I think Splinter Cell is a little bit more of a risk to try to step back and make it fit into that vision that Ubisoft has for games. That's what I'm saying. Nowhere really for that series to move. Yeah, because that game has always been like really linear, um, like 15 hours. And there's just not a space for that anymore, right? All right. Let's see. May wrap this up a little short. Hit on a couple things. Control pre-orders went live. This is the game from Remedy with a new teaser trailer. You guys can check that out. Just type exclamation point show notes in the chat, and you can check out all these links that are here for the couple announcements. There's an Uncharted movie that has finally. The Uncharted movie has finally gotten a release date. This is actually from VG247. I want to open this up from Natalie Clayton. It says that it's coming December 18th, 2020. Got no faith. I have no faith in this. No faith at all that an Uncharted movie is going to be any good. It's just an action movie. Like the games themselves are already awesome action movies. Just play them on the easiest difficulty. Like, why do we need to make this into a movie? I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't think any Uncharted fan wants an Uncharted movie because the games are such good movies themselves. And you get to be Nathan Drake in them. There's agency. You get to do all the cool shit. You get to climb on the trains and blow up the boats and do all that stuff. Explore the caves. Open up a door that's been sealed for 800 years. So, yeah, I'm not here for the Uncharted movie, nor any video game movie, except Detective Pikachu, which was pretty good. Yeah, that's all I'm going to be able to cover tonight because I do want to make sure I'm on by 10 with my friends. But, there's some other links in there. The Yooka-Laylee 2D platformer, THQ Nordic announced Destroy All Humans remake, and then the Fallout 76 bags appear to finally be shipping. And my joke of a E3 prediction yesterday that they were just going to give canvas bags to everybody in the audience at Bethesda's press conference, I think is going to... you know what they're going to do? Here's what they're going to do, guys. They're going to stand on stage. They're going to say, look, we know it was a big kerfluffle when we decided to change the material of these bags. We want to make it right. We're going to ship the canvas bags starting tomorrow. And included in the bag is fill in the blank with some collectible. Yeah, Destroy All Humans remake coming from THQ Nordic because THQ Nordic owns all of your favorite games. There are 80 fucking unannounced games coming from THQ Nordic. If there is a game that you want to see that hasn't been seen in a long, long time, I guarantee you THQ Nordic has a team working on it. Or that they at least own the rights to it. 80 unannounced games in active development. And one of them has now been announced, and it is Destroy All Humans. All right, guys. That's going to do it for the PvA Nightly Rundown over here on twitch.tv/PvA Radio. I'm going to wrap it up for the YouTube audience, so we appreciate you guys tuning in. You can hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. These we post every single weekday. So if you want to watch us live, interact in the chat like Roy Speedrun, like Harry Dongstorm, like Beal for Real, like Mad Brock did, Join us on twitch.tv/PVA radio every weeknight at 9 p.m. Eastern time, except for Wednesdays, which is when we do the PVA, our episode of PVA Radio, our weekly gaming podcast. So don't forget to check out the E3 predictions episode, which is live everywhere that you can find PVA Radio. The new episode of Presco Live is up with Etc. Kid, the music streamer who's written over 3,000 songs with his community, live on Twitch. So yeah, go check all of that out. And until next time, until Monday's episode of the PVA Nightly Rundown, we love you and goodbye.